Hello, and thank you for watching another episode of Peace, Love, and Guns. My name is Will, and today we're going to be taking a look at a very special treat indeed. This is the Cold Steel Talwar. And you'll have to excuse my awkwardness in this video and not making eye contact with you and whatnot. But got the virtual background, got books because, you know, knowledge is power and everything. But this is the Cold Steel Talwar. And I'm just going to kind of do a little show and tell here and talk about my experiences with this. My brother turned me onto these knives, and you might say, Will, that's a really big knife. And I don't disagree with you, but I have the opinion that a knife of this size has a valid use and is surprisingly easy to carry. So this is actually my EDC knife. This is the 5.5-inch long blade Cold Steel Talwar, and it's got the blue G10, which I think is absolutely beautiful. It's handsome. It's not too tactical. This knife is all function. It's all form. You get both with this bad boy right here. It's a thing of beauty and grace, as well as just being an impressive looking object here. The profile of the blade is called a taper point. I'm sorry, a trailing point, whereas a drop point would have a thicker belly going on to right here. It trails to a nice sharp tip. It's got kind of this neat grind on the back of the blade here. I don't know if you would call that a fuller on it or not, but you can kind of see what that looks like there. And this is a lockback blade, so in order to close it, you have to press on that guy there, and it is rather stout. It requires a deliberate press. You're not going to accidentally actuate that and cut your fingers off that way. It's a big blade. It's a big blade, but is it too big? I'm here to tell you no. And kind of the reason why I came to this conclusion is because of my brother. He's a big fan. He's a big knife collector. He had several Cold Steel knives. He had the Cold Steel Espada and the Raja, and I think even a kukri that's folding. And these are big knives. And what they give you is a lot of standoff distance. You'll notice that you got a couple nice little ridges in here. Typically, I don't care for finger grooves in things like on gun grips and knives and stuff like that. But these are rather innocuous, and they feel pretty good in the hand. And there's several different places to grip the knife. I mean, you can hold it here, you can hold it here, you could hold it here. So you can chalk way up on it for a more controlled task if, say, you're maybe doing some bushcrafting, using it as a general utility blade. You could even use it for finer tasks if it was pushed into that roll. So a lot of times if you're skinning, this is not ideal for that on any level, but a lot of times when you're skinning, you put your finger along the back of the blade like so. If the blade just magically disappears when it catches the green screen, but you put your finger along the blade like that, and the idea is to protect the tip of the blade so that you're not poking things that you're not supposed to when you're skinning, but you can run along and you know, open up a carcass to harvest the meat. I wouldn't recommend that for this, and that's pretty much the only role that I don't see that this knife being used heavily in. It can very well be a defensive blade, and I would say that that's probably this thing's primary use. It does come super sharp out of the box. It has this pocket tab wave opening feature. Some knives call it a wave opening feature. You'll see it, sometimes it's a hook. And this I'll demonstrate here. The way that works is you've got the knife in the pocket, and you can see it's on the pocket clip there. The pocket clip is reversible, by the way, so it can be swapped. It only does tip up carry, which is fine because that's what I like, is tip up carry. But this is how it carries. It carries right along the line of the femur. Kind of stand on my tippy toes here so you can see, but carries along the line of the femur, and you can pull the knife out, and the knife deploys. It requires it requires a little bit of practice to get used to, and definitely to be safe with it under any sort of pressure. But if you start with the knife in the pocket all the way, you can fish the knife out of the pocket. It doesn't reorient because it's too long to do that. It fits nicely in a set of, men's jeans. And you can grab the knife like so. And as you're coming up, you let that tab catch on the inside of your pocket, and you let it give some resistance, and then you let the blade go, and it snaps out. And also look where my hand positioning is. It's right in these finger grooves and right on the back tail of that blade right there. So even if you're doing some like hefty chopping, chopping blades like that made you look kind of thing. Even if you're chopping some like, wrist-sized branches or whatnot, doing whittling and wood crafting and stuff like that, you could really get after it. But what I like about it is, God forbid I would ever have to use a knife defensively. That's why you carry a sidearm. If you do have to use a knife defensively, it makes sense to have one that's legal and that you're in the legal clear. In the state of Texas, the great state of Texas, we're allowed to have knives that are 5.5 inches and smaller, 5.5 inch long blade and smaller. This is exactly 5.5 inches. And adults are allowed to have knives that are longer than that in general in most places. Even minors can have knives that are smaller than that. So that's kind of an interesting fact about Texas, perhaps. But this knife with that pocket opening feature is pretty nifty. Pull up, let it catch, and let it do its thing, let it deploy. What I will say is, this is a great feature for jeans. It is not a great feature for basketball shorts or things with elastic where the material is going to rebound. Ask me how I know. I'll just go ahead and tell you. If you are not being vigilant with how you handle this thing, you will hurt yourself. And something like basketball shorts can cause failure to open and lock, and that might bounce back and hit your fingers, which would be not good. You always want to have the blade fully locked before you're gripping around it. However, you can also cause the knife to come out and then rebound and stab yourself, which is no bueno. I did kind of have an incident like that, and that's not good. It wasn't serious, but it did poke me a little bit. And getting poked by a knife that's that pointy is going to cause a little bit of damage. Back to why I like this thing so much as a defensive tool is you can see this blade, this whole knife is 12 3/4 inches long, including the handle. The handle's something like 7 inches long, blade's 5.5. I think I read the spec, it's like 12 3/4 inches long. There's my elbow. There's the knife, and you can see that that is a rather formidable package there. And if you are involved in some sort of defensive scenario and you have presence of mind and you're clear legally to use force, I hope you don't, or I hope you're not in a knife fight. But if you needed to, something like this would probably not look amazing in court, but it is a tool. And if you needed to use something like this, I would much rather have something with this kind of reach. I mean, you've got an impressive reach out there, much further than, say, a standard, knife blade. Now, is this ridiculous? Is this so crazy to do? I don't think so, and this is my rationale. This serves a limited role. It doesn't have as much utility as, say, an iPhone XS, but look at the size comparatively. Everybody has one of these nowadays. Not everybody, right? But everybody pretty much in the US is rocking some kind of smartphone. I mean, this is the XS. I don't remember the exact spec on the diagonal length or whatnot, but it's a pretty big chunk. And this isn't even the Plus or whatever. I've seen people with these Android phones that are, they look like a freaking iPad. This rides in the pocket, and you've always got this in your front pocket, and it takes up this room. It weeble wobbles kind of around. It finds a nice place to rest, and you've always got that cell phone in the pocket. So I propose, why not have a useful tool, multi-purpose tool, such as the Cold Steel Talwar or any kind of large folding, large form factor defensive tools in the other pocket. In fact, this is even a little bit more comfortable than the iPhone is, because the pocket clip holds it vertically in the pocket and it goes along the femur. It just sits straight down. It's actually kind of cool because if someone kicks you or punches you, or you get hit with a baseball bat right there, you've kind of got this long piece of steel and G10 that can kind of break some impact. Maybe. But the thing is that it carries very easily in the pocket. It stays vertical. And I can even put my car keys in the pocket and not have any issues not being able to carry other things because I've got this in there. So it's all the way up against the far side of the pocket, the far outside edge of the pocket, and I can get in there and do whatever I want to. Car keys go in there. Car keys go in. Car keys come out. It doesn't get hung up on the blade. Since it is a tip-up configuration, the blade cannot fold out on any level. It cannot fold out against the inside seam of the pants. Of course, it's cammed so that it doesn't want to fold out anyway. But the iPhone in the other pocket can kind of twist around and do its thing. But I mean, just compare the lengths of those guys. And you don't have to get a knife that's this big, but you can have a knife that's a little bit bigger than maybe you normally carry. And I encourage you to try that. It's not super thick. It is thicker than, say, the iPhone. Oops, we got a flashlight on. Get out of here, iPhone. There we go. So it is thicker than the iPhone, but just by a little bit. And I've got a fake Magpul case on here because they didn't have the Magpul case ready when I got the XS. But that's kind of what you're looking at there. So about the same thickness as an iPhone with a case on it, and a little bit longer for that much capability. That's pretty cool. They've got, I don't want to sound brand specific, but Cold Steel, I don't know a whole lot of other manufacturers that are doing stuff like this, but Cold Steel makes a good product, it looks like. They've got the Raja, which it looks kind of like a kukri, and the Espada, which is kind of like this, but has some different flair to it. They've got a variety of sizes, all the way up to like this kind of extra large form factor, and then smaller and smaller. Man, I say give it a try. Something like this is awesome for multi-purpose use, defensive use, just cool factor. I mean, I pull this thing out and it gets a lot of attention. I don't pull it out and like wave it around in public or anything like that, but among friends or whatever. It's just cool, man. Look at that. Look at that blue G10 scales on there. I like that it's the same on both sides. A lot of high-end not that this is particularly high-end, but a lot of high-end knives, they do like one scale is G10 or something exotic, and then the other side's like titanium. That's kind of weird to me. So I like that it's symmetrical on both sides. The lock is, I think they call it a triad lock. It's a lockback knife, but it has 3 contacting surfaces in there. It takes a good amount of force to get that to close. Pushing that down. I'm not going to do it accidentally. The only little bit of wear that I'm getting is there's this probably aluminum spacer right here, and it's got a little bit of wear on the finish right there. A little metal showing through, which I think a little wear on something looks kind of cool. And there's just a little teeny tiny right there. But just to kind of get a look on the point, you can see that that point kind of bevels out like an arrowhead. And then you've got that kind of fuller where it's angled in. It's got a really nice profile to it. It's a good looking blade. And I've really enjoyed carrying this knife. I've been a longtime fan of Spyderco's and even SOG. I carried the Trident for a long time, both Tanto and a drop point. I like their flash. But yeah, my brother kind of got me into these guys, and I've not been able to go back. This thing is just too cool and too capable not to carry. So, you know, I hope this maybe opens your mind a little bit to try this. I think that you'll enjoy it, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. Peace, love, and guns, guys. Make sure to comment, like, subscribe, share, all of those wonderful things. There'll be links down in the doobly-doo for doodads and this and that. And, you know, love your neighbor, you know, even love your enemy. And if they're being bad, you know, and they decide to shoot at you, make sure that you shoot back at them, because that's what the Dalai Lama would want you to do, or Gandhi. Both of them would want you to shoot back at the bad guy. So do that, and make sure to have a nice day.